quillers. I'm Greta from Crafty, and I'm going to walk you through some quilling basics so that you can create beautiful pieces like this tropical wreath that's in your box. So the first thing that you need in order to paper quill is your strips. And your box comes with 2 packs of strips that look sort of like this. They are connected on the ends. And so all you need to do is remove one piece to start quilling. And we're going to start with how to actually coil a piece of paper, a strip of paper. And those coils are going to end up looking like these. So these are some of the different shapes and sizes that you'll use in this kit if you do all 3 of your canvases. They're so much fun to do. A really slow and relaxing craft that you can do over time. But I'll walk you through how to make your basic coil and then show you how to create the shapes. So to get started coiling, we need our strip of paper and we need a slotted needle tool. So your slotted needle tool is called that because if you look really closely, there is actually a slot there, and that's where the paper is going to go. So we're just going to slide the piece of paper into that slot. And I like to keep it pretty close to the edge of the paper before I start rolling up, but you might get more skilled at this the more you do it. So if you need to leave a little edge, don't worry about that. You can leave a little bit of an edge so that it doesn't fall out. But I'm gonna just start rolling. So I'm kind of holding the piece of paper with my thumb and middle finger on this side, and then I'm holding my slotted needle tool with my other hand. And I'm just gonna move the hand that is holding the tool. I'm just gonna start rotating it. And if you'll notice, the other hand is staying pretty stationary. All that it's really doing is helping to guide the needle tool. So that's really the gist of it. And you just start rolling your piece. Now, you don't need to use a ton of pressure. I found that when I started this, it really wore my hand out when I used a lot of pressure. So try to keep your hand that is moving the needle tool pretty loose. There are some pieces where you're going to make really tight coils and you'll need a little more pressure there. But for the most part, you can keep it pretty loose. Just make sure that you're staying on track, and that's kind of what it looks like from above at this point. And you'll get quicker at this. You can kind of guide it back into place if it loses its shape a little bit. And we're just going to coil this whole strip of paper. And that is essentially how to use the slotted needle tool. Now, once you have your coil, you can see there what it looks like from the top. You want to hold it with your fingers while it's still on, and then use your finger or your nail if you have it. Use that to push from underneath, and that will help it stay in place. And now I have my coil. So what I can do is I can glue the ends of this right away, and that will make the coil stay this exact same size. Or I can set it down for a moment and let it expand. When it's reached the size that you want it to reach, pick it back up. And when you are ready to glue it, just kind of hold it in place, pull that little edge out, take your precision tip glue bottle, and just apply a little bit of glue to the end. You only need a tiny bit. And then just go ahead and glue that piece. Just hold it there for a second to let it dry. And that's it. You can set that down, let it dry for a second, and then you can shape it into a marquise or a teardrop or a half circle, or you can leave it as is. I showed you some of these shapes earlier, and now I want to show you how to actually create them. So I have a few circles here that are just waiting to be created. You will, in your project, you'll use some circles as is. You won't shape them. You'll just leave them as is. This is kind of what they will look like. You have the sizes in your guide. But let's walk through how to create a marquise, which is these pieces right here. How to create a half circle, and how to create a teardrop. So let's start with our biggest circle, and I'll use it to show you the marquise. So I like to fold where the seam meets the edge. So if you want to fold right where the seam is, it'll help you hide your seam. And for a marquise, you're just going to squeeze down on both sides, and you want to keep that middle circle intact. And that's a marquise. Now this will be looser or tighter depending on how tight your circle was. So this was a pretty loose circle. This shows you what a tighter marquise will look like. Okay, let's move on to the teardrop. So again, I'm going to find my seam here. And this time I'm only going to squeeze up at the top because I'm creating a teardrop rather than a marquise. And this is your teardrop. Now with my final circle, it's really small, but I can still go ahead and use it to create a half circle. I'm going to squeeze on the upper edges only to create a half circle. So if I had squeezed on both equally, I would have created a marquise, but instead I squeezed down from the top and I have a half circle. So these are the basic shapes you're going to use to create your pieces. And now I'm going to show you, once you have them, how you actually glue them onto your canvas. Now your pattern is going to help you create the right size pieces and get a visual for how to lay it out. So you're not going to glue it onto this pattern, but you can use it to lay out the pieces. And then when you're ready, take them off one by one, put them on your canvas, and you're good to go. But this helps you visualize it as you're building, because it does get a little confusing, you know, as you're creating like 5 of these and 1 of these. It's hard to see how they all fit together. So this is how you can use this pattern, is just as you're creating, you can lay your pieces in there and really see how they're gonna look. And then one by one, use your tweezers to move them over to your canvas and glue down. So let's take a look at how to actually glue them onto the canvas. So I'm going to take these off, and I have a canvas here. The other thing that I have is a small pull of glue that I just put on a piece of scrap paper. We're going to use this to glue down our coils. And then I'm also going to get a strip of paper that I'm not going to coil, because I'm going to show you how to glue a strip of paper onto your canvas that you're not coiling. This is a technique that you'll use with the wreath to create the round shape, or also for the pot on your plant canvas. So let's go with the coil first. So this is where the tweezers really come in handy. When you're working with these pieces, the tweezers are really crucial. I just find it so much easier to use them than picking them up by my hand and trying to place them in the right spot, because my hands just are not as precise as these tweezers. So when you're ready to glue, you're going to just take your coil and dip it into the glue, and you're trying to get like a nice even coverage on the bottom. And then you can use another piece of the paper that's blank and doesn't have glue on it yet, just to tap off any excess glue that got onto the bottom, so you're not getting just gobs of glue onto your canvas. And then when you are ready to place that coil, just put it down onto your canvas. And I like to use my finger just to press it down. And then once you give that a chance to dry for a couple of seconds, it's good to go. Okay, now let's move on to our piece that is not coiled. So this tends to be a little bit trickier. The way we're going to apply glue to this is with our precision tip glue bottle. So I like to hold the tweezers with my left hand. That's not my dominant hand. So I like to hold on to it with my left hand, and then use the glue bottle with my right hand and just go all along the edge. And this isn't going to be perfect. Like, you're going to imagine that you have this perfect straight line of glue, and it just doesn't work quite that way using this bottle. So you're just gonna go along the edge, and you don't have to worry too much about excess glue on your canvas because you can wipe it off. It does show up shiny on your canvas, so you will see it a little bit, but as long as it's not, as long as it's glue that's just kind of coming out from the edge, it's really not that noticeable, and you can wipe it off. It dries clear, but it does dry kind of shiny on the canvas. Okay, and when I know where I want to put this and I have it in the right shape, I'm going to shape it before I ever put glue on it, actually. Then I'm ready to put it on my canvas. And really, all I do is just drop it down. And then for this, I like to just take my tweezers and go along and press it into the canvas a little bit and just give it a chance to really stick to the canvas. And it's so surprising, but after a couple of seconds, that really is good to go. And if I want to clean up some of this glue, I can come in with my tweezers actually and just kind of scrape some of it away, the excess glue, and then just make sure your piece is staying stuck as you do that, because it kind of pushes the canvas down a little bit, but that's an easy way to remove some of your excess glue. And in the end, you'll end up with 3 really fun quilled pieces, starting with your potted plant, and then moving on to your tropical wreath, and then finally the flowerscape, which is our largest canvas and looks like this. All right, happy quilling, and if I can help at all, please let me know at the email address above. Thank you so much for crafting with us, and I cannot wait to see your pieces.